come alive as the smell of the roast that will soon fill dozens of tamales fill the house. The kids and grandkids will be here soon for our annual tamale making. I put on my apron and I dip my hands deep into the big mixing bowl and begin kneading the cornmeal, the masa. It's thick and gooey, and my hands get lost inside of it. I notice that my hands are more wrinkled this year than they were last year. They remind me of my grandmother's. I remember back to the first time I kneaded the masa, and my hands were so small, like my granddaughter's are now. She's always excited to help with the tamale making. When she gets here, I'm gonna let her mix with me. I'll wrap my hands around hers, like my grandmother did, guiding my hands, ensuring it is mixed thoroughly. Tamale making first took place at my grandma Margarita's house, then my mom's house, and now mine. Soon it will be my daughter's turn to host, and then my grandchildren. My grandma taught us so we could pass this tradition to our future generations. As a child, I remember watching all my aunts and cousins arrive. Grandma's house became livelier with each new Feliz Navidad. We laughed and we cried, and there were stories, so many stories. The Mexican music was in the background, and occasionally the beat would hit someone, and they would begin to move their bodies around the kitchen, adding rhythm as they created their tamale art. Our family has been making tamales here in Burbank since my grandma Margarita arrived in the early 1920s. Growing up in Burbank was amazing, but growing up brown in this town is interesting. As my family worked to assimilate, I found myself straddling two worlds, one inside my home and one beyond the doors. Inside my home, there was a lot of brown. My house was even painted brown. Outside, the brown became faded to mostly shades of off-white or beige, not quite brown, but not quite white either. The contrast was most apparent in December. While most of my peers had visions of sugar plums dancing in their heads, creating Santa lists, wish lists miles long, signing gold-trimmed holiday cards, and baking Christmas cookies, my family was settling in for a long winter's nap. Because as the days grew shorter and the weather turned colder, the money was always scarcer. They say that most Americans spend more money in December than they do in all the other months combined. But our family was hostage to the weather. My father, armed only with an 8th grade education, created a good life for us. He was a construction worker and the only breadwinner in our family. The number of rainy days dictated how merry our Christmas would be. Even if the sun gods blessed us with a mild December, we rarely had enough money for the extras that many friends and neighbors enjoyed. We didn't have a lavish wreath on our door. We couldn't afford fancy Hallmark cards. And our presents were not wrapped in shiny red paper with green satin bows. Instead, most of the presents were covered in the comic pages of the Burbank Daily Review. Still, we loved Christmas. It was only when we allowed the outside world in that I missed these things that others had. Inside our little brown house, Christmas was magical. We had family and love. Our Santa list may not have been filled with tons of expensive things, but no matter what the weather held for us, my mom and dad ensured Christmas morning our living room had plenty of magic, and underneath our tree was never empty. I remember the one Christmas when my inside world seeped into my outside world. Every year, our neighbors and friends presented us with festive tins tied with brightly colored ribbons and filled with sugary, buttery cookies in shapes of Christmas trees and stars and delicate angels. It was always a bit awkward because I graciously accepted the gifts, eager to taste the deliciousness inside, but I had nothing to offer in return. One year I remember arriving home from middle school, feeling happy and ready to start my Christmas break when I spotted my best friend's mom's car in the driveway. My friends never came to my house. But there was Mrs. Johnson on the front porch, and my mom was accepting yet another Christmas tin, tied in a bright red bow. And when my mom then pulled out a package and handed it to her, a package wrapped in tinfoil. It was covered in an old dish towel to hold in the heat. I recognized immediately that she was gifting some of the tamales we had made. I was mortified. I realized that she was giving Mrs. Johnson a glimpse into our inside world, someone who only knew what I shared outside the house. My two worlds collided as I saw my friend's mom clutch our brown tamales with her white hands. My mom seemed really pleased with her gift giving. I didn't have the heart to tell her that I felt suddenly different and embarrassed. I was a typical middle schooler, and different was not what you ever wanted to be. Like always, my mom knew instinctively that something was wrong. She motioned for me to sit at the table, and she began to clean the kitchen around me, which is what she did when she had to have uncomfortable conversations. After a moment, she began to speak. I was worried that she was going to be angry, that I was upset. Instead, she said to me, "You see, mija, tamales are not just tamales. They are much more than that. They're a gift of love." She grabbed a tamale from the stove and she handed it to me and she said, "Look, what do you see?" I looked at it. At first, I just saw a plump golden corn husk covering one of the many tamales that we had made. But after a moment, I saw it. I saw years of tradition in this carefully wrapped treat. Memories of our tamale making parties flooded my mind. I remember mixing the masa with my grandmother's wrinkled hands, guiding mine, and showing me how to knead the soft dough just the right way, guiding my hands deep into that thick, gooey cornmeal, ensuring every bit of it was touched and kneaded thoroughly. I could see her so vividly as she expertly grabbed the corn husk and spread the masa. She knew just how much red chili meat to put in the center and how she wrapped that tamale so carefully, as if she was wrapping it in a big hug. She made each tamale with love and expected nothing less from us. In this one tamale, I could hear the laughter and stories, the same ones we told every year about the old days in Sonora, Mexico, and how our family came to California in the early 1900s to pick the fields right here in Burbank. How Grandma met Grandpa and never left. We love to hear how Grandma Margarita opened a restaurant near Lockheed where many of the workers came for their lunches. We were proud to be from one of the early Mexican families who paved the way for all other Mexican families to thrive in this city. We stacked tamales in large pots to cook. Mom said, "See how we put the tamales close together? They cook and they taste better this way. They support each other. They lean on each other, so they all stay upright." This is just like our familia mia. We are together and we lean. We support each other and we make sure we all stay upright. I still hear this in my heart when I think of the generations of my family, whether we are together or not. You see, tamales are special, just like the cookies in the Christmas tins. It's not the wrapping that makes them special. It's what's inside, the traditions. It's the time spent together making them, creating memories. That's when I realized that I was proud. I was proud of those tamales my mother gave to my friend's family, and I really hope their cookie baking was filled with as much love as our tamale making. Soon, my kitchen is going to be filled with kids and grandkids and our Christmas tamale making tradition. And I'll tell the stories my mom and my grandmother told. We'll play music and we'll travel through our past and appreciate all those who came before us as we make new memories. And of course, we'll make extra tamales to share with those we love.
Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, prospero año y felicidad.